We can't hear you, Scarlett. Scarlett, I don't think anyone can hear you. Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry. Hello, welcome. This is the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Scarlett Trippsmith, and we like to call this Virtual Huff. Now, if this is your first time joining us, please feel free to join us and introduce yourself in the chat and let everyone welcome you, because we are here to hold you and welcome you. Now, we all know that you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, different backgrounds, but we still hope that you can feel comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. As you can see, you are muted. However, in this service, we will be having breakout rooms, so don't worry. And you'll be able to converse with your fellow community. Also, please stick around after the service, for we have a congregational discussion about paying the tribal honor tax, and it'll be very, very educational and exciting. So please stick around. Because of this, we want to acknowledge and really honor the land on which that we live as the traditional home of the Wiyot people. And we really want to honor that, and we want to figure out ways in which we can honor that. So thank you. We ask that if you feel comfortable, please keep your cameras turned on so that we can see all of your beautiful faces. For during this time when we cannot safely meet together, these online services are our way of connecting and continuing to keep our mission of our congregation alive and well. Now, it's our UU tradition to take part in sharing the joys and sorrows that weigh on our hearts. This is the space where you may feel free to share with us and let us hold you. Today, we have Amy Day taking our joys and sorrows. So if you feel called, please send her a joy or sorrow in the chat directly. And when we get to that ritual, we will hold space for you. We're so glad you're here, joining us and engaging in the root through embracing diversity and empowering those connections. We are committed to fighting for the worth and dignity of every person in our community and out. And we want to remind ourselves to put our words and our principles into actions for the justice of the common good. So let's wake up. Let's wake up from the morning exhaustion that is Sunday. Let's wake up from the wish for a few more drowsy minutes in bed. Let's wake up to this world that we live in, to its beauty and to its wonder and to its tragedy and pain, and to the ability of change. Together, in the words of our friends and colleagues involved in Black Lives Matter, we must stay woke, for every day we are there for racial justice in our country. Today, we pledge action to transcend barriers, be they racial, political, economic, social, or religious. Let us wake up. Let us stay awake, and let us stay woke as we learn our way, as we learn to earn our way into a beloved community. We welcome you and thank you for sharing your presence with us today. And now, in this time and in this place, let us worship together. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Lezley Troxell for our chalice lighting and aspiration. Thank you.
With the humility and courage born of our history, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings, and the human family lives lives whole and reconciled. With this vision in our hearts and our minds, we light our chalice. So please join me in the reading of our aspiration. I think I'm just waiting for a slide to go up. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. There we go. So we have a story with Amy Dave. This is my favorite part of our services, I must admit. So she's going to do a story for all ages.
Thanks, Lezley. Good morning, everyone. It is good to be with you all and see your faces and see your presence in the comments here. I'm seeing a lot of celebration, so you can continue to send those in the chat to me for our joys and sorrows later, whatever's on your heart. But for now, this is the portion of our service where we ask you to receive with the heart of a child, with the eyes and ears and receptivity of a child, where we allow ourselves to just be in that receptive state and take in whatever wisdom, nourishment, and guidance wants to come to us. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and hopefully I have the right thing pulled up. There we go. So as I was looking for something to share today, of course, I went through many things that didn't quite work. And I came across this book that I've decided I need to now go buy in hard copy. Are you all able to see that? This maybe little thumbs up. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is the Dictionary for a Better World. And obviously we don't have time to go through every single A to Z thing. This is compiled by Irene Latham and Charles Waters, illustrated by Merdockt Amini, published by Carol Rhoda Books in Minneapolis. And so we'll just go through a few of these. And I want to encourage you, if you are as excited and inspired by this book as I am now, to dig in a little bit deeper. And I can send you a link where you can find this. So the first one I want to share with us is the word ally. Take 1 cup of understanding. When you listened without interruption, after I explained why a joke you made about my faith wasn't funny to me, then apologized afterwards. 2 dollops of fortitude. When you stood next to me when a pack of bullies made fun of my complexion, staring at them so fiercely, I thought each of them would dissolve until one by one they walked away defeated. 3 pinches of support. When you were the only friend to show up at my first solo piano recital. Afterwards, my no-nonsense mother said, you should invite him over for dinner sometime. Stir and marinate. When you did each of these things, I realized this unbreakable, unshakable support is the vital ingredient in a wholehearted ally. Belonging. And there's a great little bit of words here about entering and feeling that sense of belonging, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But just for the sake of time, I want to just share this quote here from Mother Teresa. If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. Compassion. From Julius Lester. We do not need to understand to feel the pain of another. We do not need to understand to share the joy of another. There is nothing we need to understand to be compassionate with each other. Courage. Sometimes courage can be getting up to face life's stormy world when you'd rather hide in bed, which I think we can all attest to after this year. Create. Gather paint and brush, lift guitar and strum, make something in a mad rush. Who knows what or who you'll become? When you're creating, you can't feel ho-hum. The voice of your worst critic, you, will hush as your imagination begins to thrum. Soon hope begins to gush, each new idea a ripe plum. Feel your face flush. Who knows what or who you'll become? And this one I wanted to share, dialogue. We begin with love, but in mere nanoseconds, we plunge into a furious long-distance dialogue of hot words that blaze across the net like an accelerated tennis match. After a marathon rally, exhaustion sets in. Good points are made on both sides until tempers cool, breathing slows down. Soon opponents meet face to face, shake hands, call a truce, end the divide. And I'm going to skip ahead here just for time's sake. If I can find the right page. As you can see, there's a lot in here. Make for an excellent coffee table book. Empathy, ears open, mouth closed, paying attention to the other person, helping them know, yes, they matter. And this one I wanted to put in there just as a way to keep that self-care centered in our world changing, our better world making. From Hippocrates, if you're in a bad mood, go for a walk. If you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk. If you ignore this vessel, if you learn nothing about how to love your body, how your bones, your muscles, organs know how to work as one, your cells will forget themselves unless you move, shake, stretch, sail. Hey, you, celebrate what carries you across currents. It's the least you can do. And there's a couple more I want to share here just because they seem very pertinent to the moment that we are in. So pardon me, I'm going to find this place here. There we go. So this one's called Netiquette. What if you're feeling forgotten and start fishing for likes? What if it's a boring morning and you type something that creates a maelstrom? What if you never check the bias of others or your own? What if you send a picture and that picture ends up on the phones of all the people you know and even more you don't know? What if you forget your audience may include your teachers, your parents, the very person you are talking about? What if instead of responding in anger, you wait 10 minutes, an hour, a day? What if you decide to treat each keystroke as if your life or someone else's life depends on it? Words for a better world. Awash in attempts to help cool our fevered world, we begin simply with words. We savor syllables, consider history and meaning. We forge ahead with determination, trying to do what's right, though each step is filled with uncertainty. For what is more powerful, more dangerous than words? What gathers us, divides us like these letters, and how we arrange them? How can we use words to improve ourselves and inspire mindfulness in the hearts of others without perpetuating fears, misunderstandings? Just try, a small voice whispers. So we listen and share. We ponder karma and courage, tenacity and hope. We unspool our lives, remembering triumphs and failures. We write, making poems that celebrate acceptance, freedom, respect, building each necessary step to show more compassion and gratitude. Our stories put a spotlight on making friends and losing them, about past mistakes and what we're learning. In this never-ending quest to change the world, we challenge ourselves with new forms. Roundel, Charita, Limerick, Shadorma. We abandon our complacency, search within ourselves for how to be change makers, not thinking we have all the answers. Now we listen to opposing views with an open spirit. Understanding takes time. We must be patient as our new vocabulary, and I lost my place, my apologies, takes root, trusting that change will one day bloom. We're unsure, yet willing to bring our authentic selves to you, not some Xeroxed copy of who we wish to be. This is our moment. Please join us. You can start with any word you choose. Read with empathy and zest. Zoom into each new moment, ready to bring your best self to the world. Thank you for joining me in that. Now I would like to invite you to join us singing in your own hearts and homes. The beauty of Zoom is that we're all muted, so you can sing as loudly and off key or fully and beautifully as you can and are able, as you choose. We have a hymn we would like you to join us, and Scarlett will put the words and the song for us. So thank you.
Is our holy church, where race and class unite, as equal persons in the search for beauty, truth, and right. Where is our holy writ, where a human heart a sacred torch of truth has lit by inspiration taught? Where is our Holy One? A mighty host respond. The people rise in every light to break the captive's bond. Where is our holy land? Within the human soul, where every mind truly seek with character the goal. Where is our paradise? In aspiration sight, wherein we hope to see arise 10,000 years of right. Where is our holy church?
So pardon me, I lost my place for a moment there. So we have come to the moment in our service where we like to hold space for everything that is unfurling for you right now. This is a way that we hold one another virtually, energetically, because it's important that you have a space where you can share whatever you're traveling through right now, your joys, your challenges, your sorrows. And so our ritual is to take a stone for each joy, sorrow, or concern and drop it into the pool of water here, just as a way to symbolize that it's all held, it's all carried in this collective, communal, beloved community space. So I'll just drop into the chat here. From Sina, I am thankful to have gotten my first COVID vaccination on Saturday at Pacific Union School. Sina, we are happy, happy that so many of you are getting those first and even second rounds. JoAnn, Huffman, I'm relieved to have gotten my second Friday, and we're happy that you're still able to be here with us. We're hearing that second one is a bit of a doozy, so we're glad you're here. From Chip Sharp, thank you to Sina, Beverly, Wally, John, and Kate for helping to display the Huff and Black Lives Matter banners yesterday from noon until 1:30 at 4th and V Streets in Eureka. Thank you to everyone keeping that effort and that presence there. That's an ongoing effort, so if you ever want to join, you are welcome. From David Marshak, thanks to Val Gazinski and Karen Underwood for their leadership in caring for our Huff grounds, and to Scott Allen for his wonderful care for our building and grounds. Thank you to all of you for all that you do to maintain this beautiful space while we are away from it. From Debbie and Greg, many thanks for all the support and love from this you beloved community as I have been going through Debbie's health issues. Debbie and Greg, we're so happy that you're here with us. And thank you to everyone who is reaching out to care and show their love fully. From Sylvia Shaw, celebration that Debbie Harrison has returned from surgery and is recovering well. From Cynthia Chasen, we celebrate Marie Escher on her 90th birthday on Thursday. Let's send cards and cheer in other ways. So thank you. From Beverly Morgan Lewis, in the last few days, I've lost 2 friends at opposite ends of the state. Sudden, unexpected, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching losses. Beverly, we're so sorry for your loss, and we thank you for being here with us today and allowing us to hold you in some small way inside of what you're moving through. So we drop a stone for your friends. From Suli Mossman, many thanks to Chip and John for doing everything needed to see that the EV charging station is functional. Thank you. I see many, many welcomes to Kristen, our newcomer. We're so glad that you can join us. Thank you for being here. From Julie Neander, Julian Gordon just retired with great gratitude and joy. We drop a stone. From Kate McLean, thank you, Chip, for another good Black Lives Matter banner day. You're a trooper. It's true, Chip. Thank you so much for holding that space. From Mandy Bray, I enjoyed my first COVID birthday yesterday, which involved lots of phone calls from friends and a delicious meal from Jeff Thomas. Happy birthday, Mandy. And so finally, we just drop a final stone for all that remains inside of our hearts and bodies and lives, but goes unsaid. We thank you for being here and for sharing in this space and this time with us. So we want to take a moment just to let all of that settle and to really let that come into our beings, and just take a moment to truly hold all that has come to light, all of the joys, all of the sorrows, everything that is part of this beloved community. And so we invite you into a moment of silence. So we want to invite you just to take a breath. You can close your eyes if you like, and just take a moment to hold in your own way all that is in your own heart and life, and also everything that has come forward inside this space together in your own way. Try that one more time. I want to thank you all for sharing in that time, in that ritual, and sharing your hearts and a piece of your lives with us. And we will shift now into the next portion of our service. So I'll hand it over to Lezley.
So we know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. And we are so grateful for this. We commit together to ensure that the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. So, Annette. Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. So I'm not sure how many in our congregation are familiar with Soul Matters and what that is. It's basically a curriculum packet that's provided by UU. And once a month we receive them and we go through them as a group. But the Program and Worship Committee, which is comprised of worship associates, get that packet a month earlier. And somehow, let me see if, there we go. So we get them a month earlier in order to incorporate the subject in the following month's service. And we've really just started to begin to take advantage of this, that there is this huge body of information that we're being provided, and how wonderful it is as the worship committee to go through it together and try to learn something from it. And then the following month, incorporate that into a service. So that's how this service came about, beloved community. Almost always there is a list of questions that are asked within the packet. And I'm not sure that, I think that we have several breakout groups with that go through the packet individually, maybe 5 people or so at a time. So I'm thinking many of you are familiar. Could you nod your head if any of you have participated in that group, in those groups? No, there's a lot of shakes. So they're very valuable. You learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about yourself, your place in our congregation, and you learn a lot about others. And I strongly suggest these groups because we're isolated with COVID. So it's a nice way for all of us to sort of remain together and get to know one another. So almost always there's a list of questions where we reflect on what our answers might be within each subject matter. And subject matters are, commitment and stillness and beloved community and deep listening, for instance. So oftentimes we don't get a chance to look at all the questions and answer them when we're together in a group. And and by the way, we usually get them about a week to 2 weeks before our meeting, so that we have a chance to look at them beforehand and figure out what might be important or what kind of questions we want to express with the group. So what we did was, Amy and myself, we went through the questions from Beloved Community and chose questions that were important to us to answer. But we also made up one question, and this one was for JoAnn, and hopefully she can answer this question. And that is, what was your first experience of Beloved Community at HUUF? JoAnn needs to be unmuted.
I can't hear you, JoAnn.
Uh-oh.
You're still muted.
We see you, just don't hear you.
There you go.
Does that help? At the end of 2015, after we first came here, we felt like strangers in a strange land. Bill Gallegos, my partner, and I moved to Eureka to retire. We'd visited and found it just as I remembered from years ago when I used to come with my family. Bill was his usual grumpy self, wondering how a Mexican native couple would be treated, and I was looking forward to the adventure of living in the redwoods. After a few months of exploration and finding places to shop and new friends, Bill began to experience failing health. At the same time, I joined Huuf and was discovering all the folks and some lost friends. While Bill was not a person who appreciated groups, he was impressed with the Huuf members, who he said, quote, acted more like Christians than any Baptists or Catholics, close quote, he'd ever seen. At the end of 2016, Bill became very ill and finally saw a doctor, another of the folks he avoided, and got the bad news of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He and I were both worried about how we'd get through this ordeal with no car and limited resources, as all of our income was Social Security. What we found was a wonderful community, both generous and respectful, who helped us get through the ordeal with our dignity and self-esteem intact. After many years of discrimination by folks who did not tolerate people of color with grace, we'd come to a community where we were welcomed. When you're not of the majority, but a brown person, you learn early that you should not easily trust people who are white. The love and comfort given freely to us by the many people who drove us to medical appointments, sat with Bill so I could get out to shop, came to our home to care for Bill when I was overwhelmed, and checked on us was a revelation of the love and caring in this community that has learned to see less color. This is the beginning of the kind of color respect that we all need to work on maintaining for ourselves. The people who helped us treated us with great respect, understanding, and love. The doctors, caring community members, hospice, and other individuals were all aware of the needs and difference among us while respecting our common humanity. For some folks, this can be a hard lesson to learn. My special thanks to the medical professionals, the Huuf caring community, Reverend Brian Jessup, Colleen Ruth Broderick, JoAnn and Carl Thomas, Bertie and Joe, and all the others who demonstrated that kindness comes in many varieties. They taught me that there are many flavors of kindness in different places. All of this is necessary to have a beloved community. I'd like to ask Amy, it's said that beloved community isn't about the absence of conflict, but the willingness to stay at the table and work through it. What's been your best strategy for staying at the table? What practice or wise words keep you from running or attacking when things get hard?
Thank you, JoAnn. This question is always interesting to me because it's one I feel very, very drawn to, and I also know this is where a lot of my personal work needs to take place right now. So at the beginning of, right before we all went into shelter in place nearly a year ago, my daughter, who was about to turn 8 at the time, was having some pretty horrendous temper tantrums. And, it's one thing when a 3-year-old has a temper tantrum, it's big emotions, but they're a small body. So you find ways to handle it. And it's different when an almost 8-year-old, who's growing like a weed, and has really bigger emotions and bigger body to express those emotions. So she was having some pretty intense, it was intense in our home. And so at one point I felt beyond my depth. And so I reached out to a friend of mine. There's a local woman, Diana Nunes-Meiser, who does some parenting coaching and relationship coaching, just because I needed some wisdom that I did not yet possess. And I tend to catastrophize things. So, when something is wrong, especially in my home, I can't just keep it on topic like, oh, my child's having difficulty. I go into this whole long story in my head about, it means I'm a terrible mother. It means I've brought my own trauma to her. It means, so I needed to hear from someone other than myself. And what Diana told me that really, really helped me was 2 things. And the first was just to sit with me, and when I talked about how broken we were feeling in our home because of this conflict, because of just the fighting and her big energy kind of taking over our home and us not knowing how to handle it, what she said was that we are always in a cycle in any relationship of breaking and repair. And the work really is not to get so focused on the breakage, on the rupture, that we miss the opportunity to do the repair work. And that was huge for me, to realize that rupture, that breaking, that conflict, that difficulty, it doesn't mean something's wrong. It's just a very natural part of being with other human beings, right? And that the real work is to look for the repair. Where are the places that we can mend it back together? What is our work in the repair? And the second thing that she offered me was a little bit of kind of layman's neuroscience. And this has become a favorite interest for me, especially in the last years. We've had a lot of difficulty to process. Is just, she helped me understand that when my daughter was freaking out, and as all of us tend to do, right, in our own ways, me trying to reason and rationalize with her, there's no way, I cannot access. When she is in this fight or flight place in her brain, she is literally not in her right mind. She's not in a place in her brain where she can access that place of calm, where she can access that place of, oh yeah, mom's telling me something. I need to listen to her. So if I'm telling her there's going to be consequences, if I'm telling her you need to work with me on this, she's not able to access that. She's literally gone to this survivalist place in her brain where she's not able to access that higher mind thinking. And so part of it is just how we get ourselves and how we help the other person to get back into their right mind, so to speak, so they are able to process. And that's been tremendously helpful for me and my family. And it's something that I try to use when I come into conflict with other people, because I can feel, right, the breath gets more shallow. We feel that need to kind of fight back or to go and recede into ourselves. And so I want to just share one technique that we have used in my home that has been helpful. And so there's a couple of things. And one is just to simply place your hand, one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And this may not be something that you're able to do inside conflict in the moment, but if you're able to take space for yourself, and just go ahead, if you can, close your eyes and just tune into the breath. And see if you can begin to just lengthen the inhale. Feel the palm on your belly lift with the inhalation. Feel the palm on your heart lift. And then just as slowly as you breathe in, exhale and feel the palm soften. And try to take 4 more of these. Inhale, nice and slow and deep. Exhale, and you can even open the jaw, release some sound. Let's take just a couple more. And let it go. One more. If you like, just removing your palms for a moment, and you can just notice if there's a shift, right? We just took a few breaths together, nothing major. But just, it's interesting to me how when we can just pause inside of the moment, whatever it is that we're feeling, and attune once more to the body, do something to ground ourselves in our body, return to the breath, return it to a place where we're not anxiously reacting to whatever is in front of us, but allowing ourselves to proactively, calmly, from a grounded, rooted place, from a more evolved, right, place inside our own brains, our own minds, then we're able to actually access solutions and to come back into that repair work and not just stay in the rupture. So I hope that's been helpful for what it's worth. Just keeping in mind that the rupture is part of it, and part of the repair is recognizing that we need to access that part of ourselves that is supported and rooted and calm in order to go into the repair work. So I do want to pause here and ask, and move on actually, and ask Lezley, because this is the title of our discussion here today. Lezley, and I'm going to scroll down here for just a moment here. What do you believe stands in the way of beloved community?
How much time does everybody have? So the question from the packet was, has the distinction between community and beloved community been important to your spiritual path and sensibility? Or what do you believe stands in the way of beloved community? So the other day, Bonnie McGregor and I were talking about this service. And we're both chatting back and forth, and sort of bouncing off one another. And we're basically saying the same thing, that for some reason, beloved community and what has happened over the last year and a half is affecting us viscerally, and actually making our tummies ache because of the changes that we need to go through, and the awareness of why those changes need to happen. And as we're talking, I'm talking about the beauty of UU and how incredible just listen to our principles, the inherent worth of dignity in every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of democratic process within our congregations and in the society at large. The goal of the world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence from which we are a part. Huge. This just falls right in the line with what Martin Luther King was talking about when it comes to beloved community. But yet, beloved community still is a goal. I'm going to switch this so that I can try to see you guys. There we go. All right. So it's a goal to live within a beloved community, not only in our fellowship or congregations, but in our daily lives, in our workplace, when we walk out on the street, when we're thinking about things, when we're watching a movie, to look at all of these things and exist within all of these things, with beloved community being a great deal part of it. So what I ended up saying to Bonnie was, oh my God, the problem is that we as Unitarians have a tendency to rest on our laurels, on what we've done. For instance, this incredible list of principles. They're phenomenal. And who we are, just like JoAnn was talking about how helpful and sweet and kind we all are, and how we mean well. But there was something missing. And again, I'm talking to Bonnie and I said, oh my God, it has something to do with spirit. It has something to do with the inability to love. And it has something to do with the inability, with fear. And I don't mean just UUs. This is everybody. And what I realized is that, they always say something about, fear and love, that people don't love because of fear. And I think that it's difficult for people to change and become truly loving. John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis used to talk about how the love is already there. It's there. It's just a step from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 4 to find that love in beloved community. I've lost where I am. And of course, I'm just talking here. So finding it in my notes, I may not be able to find it. Oh, I know. So we all have a tendency to not want to lose control. When we purely love, we are not in control. And my daughter and I were talking about this the other day. And she was saying that one of the things that she realized is that she wasn't being kind for kindness sake, for just love of another person. She was being kind when she gave $5 to a homeless person, but she was doing it with some kind of expectation. She may not have said it to the homeless person, but she did say it to herself. I'm giving you this $5 with the hopes that, and if I could control it, I would. that you're going to go get something to eat with this $5, or you're going to use it to pay towards a hotel room, or you're going to use it in some responsible way so that you as a homeless person can better yourself and make yourself more acceptable to me, right? As opposed to, here's the $5, do what you will with it. Here, I'm just giving this to you out of kindness. And for Zoe, that was huge, to let go of that kind of control. And now she goes, what did she do? She used to go around with just one $5 bill. But what it did somehow was that opening herself up to that kindness and that compassion, it opened up another $5 bill. So she, on her way to work, she passes out 5, and on her way home, she passes out 5. Because why not? I can be okay with a loss of $10, right? So, you know, we learn from our children, right? I think that part of the difficulty in becoming a beloved community is not only fear of love, but it's also a fear of loss of privilege. And this, I think, is for the most part subconscious. But in the packet, the beloved community packet, what is her name? Peggy McIntosh, I think that was her name. She wrote up an essay having to do with the backpack and white privilege. And basically what she talked about was within this backpack that she had a passport, she had a credit card, she had all of these things that white folk just get. They just have it by being born white. And this really causes a lot of short hairs to rise on the back of the neck, right? Because nobody wants to admit that they have white privilege. Nobody wants to admit that it's something that they feel like that there's no control of. So anyway, so she has a list, this massive list in the beloved package, which you should look at, people should look at. And there's like 25 things that if you start admitting, it's like, okay, I can probably find, as a white person, I can probably live just about anywhere I want. As a Black person, you don't get to. I mean, just simple things like that you take for granted that you don't remember. So that's fear of loss of that privilege, I think, stands more in the way than we are willing to admit. If I give my privilege, if I act less privileged, or if I'm aware of my privilege in the world, then I'm going to give somebody else privilege. So for instance, there was this story, I think it took place, it was in Marin City. I used to live in Sausalito years ago. So yeah, it was in Marin City, and this Black couple had purchased this house, a house, and they had totally remodeled it. And I'm fudging on the figures, how much it was, but it was like they purchased it many years ago for $500,000, and they put $400,000 into it, and they figured it was worth $1 million. And they went to go sell it, but the appraisers, once they saw that they were Black folk, appraised the house at many, many, many dollars less than what it was really supposed to be appraised for. That's not quite redlining. Look it up if you don't know what redlining is, but it's redlining, right? Had this couple been a white couple, the appraiser would have appraised it for what it was actually worth. So this still obviously keeps happening. And maybe but yet, what do I want to say? It's scary. Change is freaking scary. And it's easier to go through life with boundaries. And I think in order to really experience beloved community, that the boundaries need to fall, change needs to be accepted, and not only accepted, it needs to be created by the individuals. And that love and spirit need to be welcomed into our hearts, because it's already there. Because it really is already there. Does that make sense? Let me see. I can see this, or I can see this, or okay. So if we go through life knowing that the love is there, it seems like the boundaries fall on their own, and it seems like when the boundaries fall, then the fear is lessened. And when the fear is lessened, then there's more acceptance of one another. Don't know if that makes sense or not. I wanted to find this little quote. Here we go. This is from Austin Channing Brown, who I'm not familiar with. When this service is over, I'm going to find out more about this person because I really liked what he said. He said, oftentimes we say you got to be in proximity with one another. You got to be friends. You got to sit at the table together. White folks need to take a step back. Instead of seeking out that friend, that person who's going to teach them, they should seek out education, seek out books, seek out places where people of color are willing to talk. Seek out the lecture, seek out the class, seek out the book. I don't know why. Oh, seek out book studies. Seek out the spaces where people of color have already agreed to share their stories with you. That way, when you come into proximity with people of color, you will have a larger foundation to build a relationship as opposed to using me as your teacher. The goal of our friendship should not be for me to be your teacher. It should be for me to be your friend. So now this is hard for me to expose, but I'm going to. For a long time, I've been a token, not the token, but I have been a token at UU. There are not many people of color in Humboldt County. There are not, and then when you lessen the odds of how many people of color are going to join and seek out HUUF, it's been a forever difficulty and a problem to be an open congregation with hopes of more POVs, POFs, whatever, POCs, there it goes, being invited and feeling comfortable at our fellowship, at our congregation. And that's just a reality. And I have accepted the role of token because I grew up with that role. That's who I've always been. I grew up in Humboldt County. You know what, we moved up here when I was 12. So from the time I was 12 on, I was basically alone as a Black native white person in Humboldt County. So that is my role. It is frustrating sometimes when my fellowship does things that aren't so aware. For instance, I will give you I'll give you one, for instance. One, for instance, is that I just lost it. I just had an old lady moment there. One, for instance, was, and I'm not exaggerating, 10 different people came up to me and told me how much I would love the new minister, that I should come back to UU because Lezley, you are going to love the new minister. You're just going to love the new minister. Every single person. I said, well, why? Well, they're really interesting. They're really articulate. They're really great. They're really kind. They're, intelligent and all of these things, right? And so I go to fellowship. My partner had died, and it's like, okay, I need to find community of worship again. So I come back to fellowship, and there's this handsome Black man sitting in the front row. And I looked at him, and I thought, and he wasn't the speaker. Somebody else was the speaker that day. There was a guest speaker that day. And I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I would bet anything that that's the new minister. And that's why we would get along so well. And sure enough, next Sunday, he's speaking. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, that really happened here. Where not one person out of 10 could say to me, he's Black and he's intelligent and he's this and he's that and he's that. You're just gonna love him, Of course, jokingly, I would think, are you gonna assume that I'm gonna love a Black man just because he's a Black man? That doesn't make sense, right? But at the same time, to not mention the fact that he was Black was so infuriating and so humorous to me. Anthony and I probably shouldn't say this, but Anthony and I giggled about it for quite some time. Often we would see each other in the hall or whatever, and we would say, oh, well, but you're not, no. Because it was just plain silly. It was just plain silly. So I think I'm just about to wrap up. I want to leave this with accept the visceral, accept what's in your gut when it comes to doing the right thing or seeing and witnessing the wrong thing. Because your gut is telling you something that you need to know. And it might be that you need to open yourself to love. It might mean that you need to step into something, a conflict or something. It might mean that you need to go do something to create beloved community. Accept the visceral, accept what your body tells you about spirit and fear, and use those tools that you're given towards a beloved community. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, so it says that Amy introduces, where are we? We are at Amy again. So Amy's going to make an introduction about breakout rooms.
Thank you.
What?
No, I'm loving the just spontaneous unfoldment of today. I think it's a beautiful representation, right? Because this is how we do, beloved community. We show up how we are and we bring ourselves fully to this moment, whatever is alive in us. So thank you, Lezley. Thank you, JoAnn, both of you. We want to kind of crowdsource your wisdom, if we may, for a moment. So Scarlett is going to put us into breakout rooms of 2 people. And this is going to be a way, one thing that continued to come up as we were talking about this subject of beloved community, as it kept happening, I kept hearing from various people that they were having these spontaneous one-on-one conversations with one another. And just about, what's going on in your life and hearing a little story and just coming back after that and saying, wow, I never knew that about that person, and how just the details, that intimacy, that finding out and investing and hearing and receiving and offering our stories is a huge part of how we build this beautiful community. So the work, please, is to just be a good reflective receiver, reflective listener. So you'll have 8 minutes total. So one person will go answer the question, and I'll put it in the chat here. Who taught you the most about creating beloved community? And this is a chance for you again, right, to feel into your past, your teachers, your mentors, every person that you've ever encountered who taught you something about what it means to build this in your life and in your world. And we want you just to share from your heart. So you'll have 4 minutes to share, and the other person will just receive that. Not interjecting, not saying, oh yeah, that reminds me of this time, but just really letting that land and holding space for you to share your story. And then we'll let you know when we're about halfway through, and then we switch roles. So yes. And then we'll come back and we'll get together. So Scarlett will put us in our rooms of 2. I know some of you are off video, and I know sometimes being put into a small room with someone you may or may not know can be a little bit daunting, but we invite you to stay off video if that's where you're at. If you're coming from bed today, I did a Zoom call from bed the other night, and I kept my video off the whole time, and it's amazing what you can do if you just show up a little bit. So we invite you to stay and join us for this conversation.
Welcome back, everybody. I believe it's up to Amy.
Thank you. Well, thank you, JoAnn and Lezley, for sharing your stories and for hearing part of mine. We hope that was useful. I hope maybe you learned something or got to share something that you haven't before. So we will have some time to gather in a more spontaneous way and chat some more later after the service. But for now, I want to invite you to join us in a final song. And this is something that Lezley brought that I didn't know existed. This is actually, we get Tracy Chapman today leading us through a version of Stand By Me. So may this, right? I know, didn't that just make life so much better to know that there's a version of Stand By Me with Tracy Chapman? So may this add to the feeling of love in your own body and heart and life. And may this hold you. We invite you to sing along as this plays. Thanks.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. If the sky we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, you just stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, you just stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me.
So we wanted to know if there was anybody that had some reflections on that two-person question during the breakout session. If anybody wanted to share that, wiggle your hand. And I think Scarlett has the capability of finding you and unmuting you. Just wiggle your hands if you do have anything you want to share. Wiggling hands are easy to see. Dun, 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 dun. Uh-oh, next page, I'm looking for wiggly hands. So far, no wiggly hands. Nope. Oh, all right then. So I think the next thing we do is extinguish the candle, the chalice. Never has it been more true than now. We extinguish this flame, but the sparks within us remain light. From each of us in our supposed solitude, the signals buzz and hum, sparking through space to one another, connecting us invisibly, but palpably. I can't say that word, palpably. There we go, palpably, but palpably. We are one, and from every window, our light shines. So we were going to go to our song, I think. Is that right?
So as we exit this time, and we do invite you to stick around after you've had a moment to go grab water, take a little stretch break to come back for our congregational meeting, which Scarlett will tell us a little bit more about in a sec. We invite you now as we leave this portion of our time together to extend hands across your screen. Knowing that in this way, we are able to hold one another. We extend out of ourselves from the heart, and we offer ourselves and we receive the energy that is here and available to us. We create this together, imperfect, beautiful, willing vessels that we are. This is how we create this beloved community. So I invite you to sing with me wholeheartedly, fully, our processional as we leave this space together. And we're just going to do this a cappella today because that feels like that kind of a day. Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love, in love, go in peace. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, blessed be, ashe, aho. We thank you so much for being with us today. Stay home, stay safe, stay connected in whatever way that you can right now. Thank you for being this beloved community with us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. If you need to give a little stretch, move your body a little bit, please feel free. If you need to get up and get a glass of water, we have our congregational meeting coming up right now where we want to hear from you and what you think about how to really embody and honor and create more of a beloved community that is diverse and honoring, especially those whose lands that which we're on. So you all now have the magical ability to unmute yourselves. Please be respectful of this power. If you're not talking, please stay muted. But if you do have something to say, please unmute yourself because we do want to hear what you have to say. We just don't want to hear what your dogs have to say. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Birdie Welty for our chalice lighting for this congregational meeting today. So Birdie, take it away.
Good morning or good afternoon. Actually, I'd like to, as a chalice lighting, use a children's aspiration that we always did in my previous congregation. We are Unitarian Universalist, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. And I encourage you in our discussion today to remember to have open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. Our recent Indigenous book discussion groups, the one on a national level, the Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States, and ComTem, the one about the local tribal histories and current involvement, has sparked a lot of interest. And somehow in the congregation, there seemed to be an assumption that the fellowship, who we acknowledge every week, being on Wiyot ancestral lands, are actually paying an honor tax. At present, we are not doing so. In her webinar, What Good is a Land Acknowledgement? Dr. Kucha Riesling Baldy stresses that writing a land acknowledgement for your organization can be a real growth experience. This is an experience which I would encourage our fellowship to consider. However, any land acknowledgement causes one to ask, what does this acknowledgement call us to do? One answer developed by the Seventh Generation Fund is to pay a voluntary honor tax to the tribe on whose ancestral unceded land you live or on which your organization is housed. And right now, Scarlett is going to show the map of the Wiyot ancestral lands. If you don't have it, okay. As you can see from this, the bay, you can see the star that represents HSU, and we're very close to it. The Wiyot ancestral lands includes everything from Little River all the way down past the Eel River to the Mattole. And we are, many of us, very aware of how this land was taken and what happened to the native population in this area over 150 years ago. So at this point, Chip Sharp is going to talk to us about what is an honor tax. So take it away, Chip.
Okay. Well, I'm opening with a statement from Michelle Vassell, the Wiyot Tribal Administrator, and quoting her, "Tribal governments provide essential service to their citizens. Other governments tax property, land, and income in order to provide these services. Tribal governments cannot do this as their ancestral territory is occupied. We cannot tax our own people because they are already paying local, state, and federal taxes, and tribal lands are held in trust by the federal government or being taxed by other governments. The Wiyot tribe operates primarily on grant funding. That places tribes in a position of being subject to the whims of the federal government and nonprofit foundations, which often dictate how funds must be spent. For me, the honor tax is a really important tool to develop economic sovereignty because it allows us to choose how we spend funds with no strings attached." So that was from the Wiyot Tribal Administrator. The website of Cooperation Humboldt states, "An honor tax is a tangible way of honoring the sovereignty of Native nations. It is called a tax because it is not a gift or donation. The tax is voluntary. The amount is decided by the individual or the business or other organization and is paid directly to the Wiyot tribe. Cooperation Humboldt has chosen to commit a voluntary honor tax of 1% of their annual revenue. Others have suggested an amount that would be relevant to the value of their home or property. Perhaps a portion of the value is assessed by the county, or the amount of their annual property tax, or even a portion of their rental payments. And some prefer the amount to be symbolic, perhaps the date of a historical event or a number that's of personal significance. Today, we're considering an honor tax paid to the Wiyot tribe by our congregation to honor our use of unceded Wiyot territory. We are also, as individuals, considering our own voluntary payments of an honor tax. To pay the honor tax, you can mail directly to the address that Charlotte is posting in the chat. Wiyot Tribe, 1000 Wiyot Drive, Lolita, California, 95551. We will hear some people say that an honor tax is a tax, not a donation. I suggest that the value in this view is that we are encouraged to accept this honoring of Native peoples as an obligation. Similarly, we honor our obligation to the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship with our pledge of dollars. So we can say that an honor tax is both a tax and a tax-deductible contribution. The following is from the Wiyot tribe's official acknowledgement of a donation. Quoted, regard 2019 honor tax. On behalf of the Wiyot tribe, I would like to say, Huuf, thank you for your donation. The Wiyot tribe is a federally recognized Indian tribe. As such, your honor tax donation may be claimed as a tax deduction. This letter serves to acknowledge your donation for that purpose. The acknowledgement letter then quotes IRS code at length. Here I present the most relevant sentences. Quote from the tax code, Congress authorized federally recognized Indian tribes and their political subdivisions to be treated like states for certain specified purposes, because tribal governments, like state governments, serve the public within their jurisdictional boundaries. As a result, a federally recognized tribe is determined by the IRS to be an organization to which contributions may be tax deductible. Scarlett is posting the URL for this part of the tax code in chat. Thank you.
And now Sylvia will lead us in a discussion. Take it away, Sylvia.
Okay, first I want questions of Chip about what he's presented. Anyone want to get more information or question? Okay. Is that a hand, Nancy, or are you just adjusting something? Okay, I see Sina with a hand.
Yeah, you're muted.
Sina,
How's that?
are you unmuted?
Yes. I read somewhere or got the information that the honor tax was not tax deductible. So are you saying it is tax deductible?
Yes, it's definitely tax deductible. The statement that it's not a donation, I have seen from Cooperation Humboldt, and I've heard that from other people. And the way I put that together in my own mind is that is a declaration that we should view it as an obligation. But